Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brother War Smith with the Black News Network, the real voice of Black U.S.A. Coming at you live on this Sunday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. First of all, let me say thank you so much for going into this 2025 year in January or February now. The year is moving right along. So congratulations if you made it through 2024, because it was a hard year for some people. Today, our discussion is about the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, as well as what led up to it and what led up to us being citizens in the United States of America. Now, it's always been a question about it up until the 14th Amendment was issued. And that's the concern that my associate and I have today. So I'm going to introduce to some and present to others, none only, the Mr. Claude Foster. I want to welcome him to the Black News Network.
Well, good afternoon, my brother, and we'd be remiss if we didn't say happy Black History Month.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That was a couple of days ago. To all of our listeners, happy Black History Month for those of you that celebrate your Black history.
That's something that, Black History Month is more than just February. I think it's every month, but more especially it is January and February, because we do hold dear Martin Luther King's birthday, and we do have the march here in San Antonio on his birthday. So now it's about us digging deep and finding the things that really make us citizens in this country of America. And that's been a really questionable thing for me, and I'm pretty sure for others as well. I don't understand it sometimes. We were having a discussion just before we went online, and I want to pick that right back up, Claude, before we go into the Fugitive Slave Act. So what were you saying?
Well, I was saying that the same people that wrote the Declaration of Independence that said all men are created equal also wrote the Constitution up, I think about a dozen or so years later, or right around a dozen years later.
Mm-hmm.
So I think and slavery was legal in the United States up until a certain date, and then it was no longer legal, but it was still allowed in half the states. And so I think we have yet to determine what constitutes a citizen. Does the Declaration of Independence that says all men are created equal, is that the defining moment of citizenship for everyone? And if it was, why when they wrote the Constitution did they exclude us from the Constitution? They defined what a citizen was.
In my opinion, I mean, let's go back to
because the people that wrote the Declaration of Independence were slave owners.
Yes.
And so they were slave owners when they wrote the Declaration and said that all men are created equal.
Right.
So did they mean black folks too?
No, they did not.
They said all men.
Yeah. Yes, said all men, but they did not consider you and I as men. We were property. That is the big dilemma with citizenship. Now, what my discussion, what I thought is going to take us through property, us no longer being property and becoming people. And that is the situation. We've never been declared people. We've only declaration we've had in America is that we were absolutely property. That's
now,
it.
These were religious men. They knew what a man is, and an animal. They didn't know the difference between a man and these were religious men.
They convinced themselves that we are not men, that black people were not men. They were property, and they tried to handle us accordingly as property. That's the problem.
But was that to keep the Union together when they wrote the Constitution and allowed slave states and the states that they brought in were free states. This is where the conflict came about. So did they know we were? Did they deliberately exclude us from the Constitution when they wrote the Constitution because they was trying to build a united country? I mean, trying to hold the country
United Nations. They deliberately made us.
Much credit, or do you want to say that they were racist? And
I would say that they have never, ever, not even to 2025, considered us human beings and people. And that's been the dilemma. When you're afraid of something, you're like, I'm afraid to go in the cage with a lion. And it's obvious why I'm afraid to go in the cage with a lion, because I already know that lion will devastate me. They are afraid of us for the very same thought process. I mean, they feel like if we would ever become equal to them, then we will dominate them as they did us. But they don't realize we don't think that way, but they think we think that way. That is the problem. They got this big fear, and they create fear, and they found that money was in fear of us, Black people. So how do you keep an animal under suppression when you fear that animal? You ensure that the cages around that animal are extremely strong enough to contain that animal. You ensure that that animal has no access to anything outside of what you want to allow them to have access to. Think about the zoo. When you go to the zoo and you look at the lion's cage, you see that lion is 100% restrained. He cannot do anything but growl. That's all he can do. And he got to wait for to be fed. He got to wait for you to clean his cage. You got to wait for you to give him his shots or whatever else he may need. He is a confined animal, and therefore he is property of the caretaker.
But that was different with slaves. I mean, they saw slaves preparing food, cooking, putting on clothes. You know what I'm saying?
It's the same thing. How do you keep let's say we got 100 slaves on this plantation. How do you keep them from rebelling? You keep them from rebelling by keeping them in such a destitute state that they can never muster enough strength, nor resources, nor mentality to take over the people who feed them. They feed them the scraps. That's why we eat chitlins today.
But they knew that was a lie. They brought us over on slave ships. They had to have people with guns and weapons because they was fearful that slaves would rebel. So they knew we were human. They knew that we could organize. They knew that we could.
Think about this. When they went into Africa to get the slaves, they had to deal with the kings and queens and dignitaries of the African continent. So they had to submit themselves and look, we'll bow to you. We'll give you this and we'll give you that, for you to give us this and give us that. They had to know that these people had power in Africa. So they knew it. But the only way for them to become slaves here were two things. One, you had to make the people that you brought to America forget their ancestry, denounce their nationality, and become property of you. That's where Kunta Kinte and the part where Kunta Kinte had to be made to say his name was Toby. When he had to be made to do that, that's when you understood that they had to take that away from him, the Kunta Kinte part, before he could be a slave, before he could be a good slave. Otherwise, he would still be connected to his roots in Africa. And they couldn't have that. They couldn't let him mingle with the people that they've already conditioned in America to be slaves, where they've given them new names, they made them learn a new religion, and they've given them everything that they want them to have to keep them in a particular space. And that's by shortening their food. They didn't have enough food or energy to do anything outside of hit the field and do what the white man wanted them to do. They didn't have the clothes, they didn't have shoes. Every slave that ran away, more than likely ran away barefoot and with rags on. Even in the middle of winter, if they ran away, they didn't have anything. They ran away with nothing. And they ran away because they knew that they were better than being a slave. They knew that because they had ancestry that they never gave up. But Kunta Kinte is the epitome of that movie that solidified what happened here in America. How they took away our dignity and our heritage in order to make us property. We had nothing, huh? We were like dogs,
Well,
a corral of dogs.
but having said all that, in terms of in terms of the Fugitive Slave Act,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, I think that there was recognition. I think those founders found a slick way, and you may not agree with this, to make sure that African Americans were eventually included in America. You know,
Eventually included.
well, they had slaves, right? The founders.
Mm-hmm.
But yet they created a document that said all men are created equal, which laid the foundation for Lincoln's positions that he had that led to the Civil War. So,
right.
So when they said all men are created equal, you don't think that they saw blacks as men?
No, absolutely not.
What historically though? Where do you come to that conclusion?
Because the only way you take a person and take away their humanity is you reduce them to less than human, which they did with our ancestors. They made them property. And see, it's a strategy behind it. It's like if you get a dog, you can't turn a dog loose in the backyard and expect them to be obedient or to do what you tell them to do when you get in their presence. So you had to mold these people to be that way. They didn't just become dormant and afraid of the white man. They had to make them fear the white man.
Brother,
but in actuality, they feared the black man.
But why did they refer to us as other persons in the Constitution then? A person is not an animal. They was referring.
We're not people in their eyes.
Well, what's a person?
Even today, white people fear you, right?
Well, what's a person?
A person is a white person in accordance to how they defined it. In
the Constitution, they refer to
they only referring to white. They don't care if you're Hispanic, black, Mexican, whatever. If you're not white, you are not considered a person.
So in the Constitution,
Constitution is all for white. It's 100% white.
But why would they need to refer to white people as other persons?
When you got to give me that other persons. Where you referring to that?
They refer to us as other persons.
Where are you coming? Where is that coming from?
That's in the Constitution.
Okay, you got to reference it where it says other persons for me to understand it. But why? I mean, do you have it right? You have to look it up.
I have to look it up.
In the meantime, I can tell you that you mentioned the Declaration of Independence, which was the first official document. And they wrote the Declaration of Independence because they had to define who people were in America. And they had to define that slaves and black people were not considered people. That's the only way they could make this document and stand behind it. You can't say that all men are created equal and take a person that you got out there in the cotton field and put them next to a white person and say, yeah, they both are men. They would never do that. They knew if they'd ever given a black person the status that they have, that they would lose 100% hands down. There is no other race on the planet today that made as much accomplishments as black people have made in this country in the shortest period of time. We've come farther than any other culture in the world because everything that we've gathered has only been gathered over the course of 150 years. We didn't have a 500, a 700 year head start to get where we are now. We got here because of our tenacity, our ability to endure, and our ability to survive like cockroaches. I hate to keep referring to that, but you can't get rid of roaches when you damn sure can't get rid of us. So we are here to stay, and this is our country just as well as it is theirs. The only problem is they're the ones who are afraid to admit it, and they do it through legislation. because this legislation gives them the power to do what they need to do to control us. And they do it through citizenship. Look how citizenship is being used today. And that's why we're going to end up at the Fugitive Slave Act, because it's about citizenship and being captured by one of these popos out there capturing slaves up north and shipping them back down south to put them on a plantation. 3 people that have been put back in slavery because of the Fugitive Slave Act. And the worst part about the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 is that the federal government endorsed it and promoted it. And if a slave catcher, a police officer, caught a person, whether they were slave or not, and tried to get them back, and the government of that state tried to deny it, the federal government would overrule that state and tell that state that guy got to go back to the South. I don't care if he's free or not. And it all comes to a head when you get to the Dred Scott case, that's going to be almost at the end of our show. But we started out with the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And that's a damn lie if you really look at who all men are. If we were considered men, they wouldn't have put that there.
But we don't. What else does it say?
It says that they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among these ends. It is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. And the people are not the slaves. The slaves are just like cows in the pasture. They do not have a voice at this particular time.
Founders, when they wrote the Declaration of Independence,
everyone had slaves.
They did not mean to include black people in the words "all men are created equal."
They did not include the black people that were slaves. They did not include them. Okay, now you got other documents that followed the Declaration of Independence.
Right.
You got the Articles of Confederation, which let's see. The free inhabitants of each state, paupers, vagabonds, and fugitives from justice excepted, shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of free citizens in the several states. See, here it is, November 15th, 1777. They're telling you that you are a citizen in all states. As long as you're not a fugitive. You are a citizen in all states. So that is in the Articles of Confederation in November 15th, 1977. Not 1977, 1777.
Okay, so when they said this right here, listen to this. This is in the Constitution, okay? And I want you to tell me who they're talking about. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons. They're talking about white folks, some white folks, including those bound to service for a term of years.
In servitude, yeah.
In servitude, and excluding Indians not taxed.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3/5 of all other persons. Who are they referring to?
Those all other persons were slaves.
Okay, person.
But you still only 3/5.
Person.
You got to look at the parameters.
No,
you're using
person.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that. We here.
Person. Okay.
I'm with you. 3/5 of a person means that you are not considered a whole person.
No, they did that for
voting, for counting, for numbers.
They did that so that the slaves could count. The slaves wanted to count.
And they were determining who would be senators and representatives.
Right. The slave the slave states wanted to count us as a whole people. Remember?
But they didn't.
That was the federal government. That was the people. The founders said, "No, you can't. We're not gonna. we're not going to give you that kind of power in the South, in those southern states. So for representation, we'll let you take that whole person because they acknowledge that we were people.
3/5 of a person.
No, that was only for representation.
But that's the only way they reframed it. The only thing that they referred to was 3/5.
Define a person.
When did they go away from 3/5?
No, my brother. Define a person. What is a person?
Oh,
it's like saying what is a man and what is a woman? What is a person?
This is my reference right here.
Okay, look up a person. Look up person. See, they can do all they want to in terms of representation, in terms of congressional representation, in terms of representatives. That's what that was about. We were people. They knew we were people when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, and they knew we were people when they wrote the Constitution, because the Constitution laid out the form of government we would have in this country.
Okay, in the Black's Law Dictionary, a person is a human being.
So they knew we
also
were
termed as a natural person.
Right. So 3/5 of a human being. They knew that we were human.
That's a human being. They knew you were human, but you were not a human like them.
No, we were not a human because it was. And see, this is where you get into these heavy debates about whether it was about slavery or whether it was about politics. It was about because Lincoln
about maintaining slavery.
Because Lincoln believed in the words of the Constitution that all men are created equal.
Yeah.
And that's why he had no conflict with the Constitution in terms of how he saw us as a people. But he wasn't willing to sacrifice the Union for us. You understand what I'm saying? He wasn't that kind of free.
He was not in favor of abolishing slavery. What he was in favor of was establishing a one nation.
Right.
That's his only concern. I want one nation, whether slavery or not. I want one nation.
Because if he could have sent us all back to Africa to save the Union, he would have did.
He did mention that. I'm going to show you here in just a second. But first, if he had the choice, he would have definitely allowed everything to go without the Civil War. But the Civil War, because the South decided they wanted to be their own country. And the reason that he wanted to fight is because he wanted it to be one country. So they did not agree. Huh?
So let's come to an agreement. Did the founders, we were people.
They knew, bullshit, I know certain things. I know I'm going to hit this hoop when I shoot the basketball or not, but I'm still going to shoot it. I don't know, but I'm still going to shoot it.
So
it's almost like they're gonna tell you've been around a long time like I have, and you've seen how we get offered these great things, but to find out that it's not really what they promised us. And it's never changed. They promise us the world and they give us the shells of a peanut. That's something that we became accustomed to, getting promised everything, but being given nothing. And we get that every single day. Look at all the commercials on TV. You see a McDonald's hamburger looking so pretty and a Burger King commercial looking so great. We see all this all the time on TV, but then when we go to these places to get this product, it ain't what it seems. It ain't nothing like what we saw on TV.
Because slaves fought in the Civil War.
Yeah. Why? Why did they fight in the Civil War?
But what I'm saying is this whole notion that of how the South saw us as being less than human and all.
You're still seen that way.
But it's bullshit.
Of course it is. No doubt, my friend. It's bullshit. We know we're better than that. They know we're better than that. It's fear. It's only fear. If they did not fear who we were, then they would not be afraid to allow us equal access to everything. But see, the Constitution tells us that we have exactly what they have. But when it comes to the people in power, why is it that, like I was telling somebody the other day, in San Antonio, we got over 1 million people here, right? And at least 800,000 of those million are Hispanic or of Hispanic descent.
Right.
We got about let's say we got 7% black, we got 3% white. But when you look at the governing of San Antonio, you got, let's say all the people in higher level management, 80%, 85% of the people in higher level management in almost every city in the country are white. Why is that? And you can have the smallest population in that city, but the white people run it because they are too afraid to allow us to get there. And when we get too high, what do you think the first thing come out of their mouth? Oh, we got an uppity nigger in here. That's what you hear. You don't hear it, but that's what being said. That's been said to me. You don't get uppity. They didn't call me a nigger, but they did tell me don't get uppity. Don't get uppity. What is uppity? What is that? Getting to acting like white folks? Is that uppity? Nobody, I've never been able to define what is uppity. If you're trying to tell me I'm getting uppity by being proud of who I am,
it could mean,
huh?
Look, Negro, you don't have no rights in this country. So don't impose your attitude,
power, authority.
No, your attitude of that you're equal to me. Because see, mm-hmm. I think whites still believe
they're afraid of us.
I think that they bought into this. American society has been so complete in terms of our education system. A lot of what we know, the general public don't know. Like, look what Trump's doing now. Look what he's doing with the DEI and all this kind of stuff.
He basically everything that would equalize.
He's basically equating anything bad that's happening
to the skin of people. Now, you think it's a good thing. People think it's a good thing that he's deporting all these people, but eventually they're going to see, because it's going to hit them right in the ass when all the prices of everything start going up, when all the shortages of everything start going up, because we don't have the group of people. We don't have the people that are willing. We have the people, but they're not willing to go pick no damn tomato.
Let me ask you a question. It's not so much that he's deporting them. Do you think that our black leadership should be the ones defending them?
No, that ain't their position to defend what's happening with Mexicans. It's their position to defend what's happening with blacks in their communities, our black leadership. But the fact of the matter is our black leadership are so damn bent on trying to act like they're in the middle. They're with the white and they're with the black and they're with the Mexicans, that they can't focus on a damn thing because they can't get shit done because they're never committed to a particular way. They're not committed. They're not committed to being black. So these politicians don't get into office just being black. They have to cross over.
So how much commitment does
the commitment is sacrifice. Sacrifice of your character and your culture.
So how much commitment does 14% of the population deserve? We're 14% of the American population. How much commitment do we how much commitment should we demand?
I really couldn't tell you how much we should demand. I mean, the commitment is 100% anywhere on every single thing from everybody.
I agree with what you said. I mean, when there are specific issues to black folks, you don't see a lot of other leadership, whether it's Asian or Hispanic or other leadership, standing with the black leaders. Now they're part of a coalition.
Nobody stands with the black leadership. And that's just the fact of life in America. We can never get too complacent where we can expect black leadership to support black people. And you've heard that from the vice president from the previous administration on down, that she can never do anything just to specifically support black people. Well, and then a month later, you hear a Chinese act coming out that protects Chinese people from being assaulted on the street.
It's like I told you, if you look at the historical record, and I can read it to you right now. But even when they passed the 14th Amendment,
Mm-hmm.
they wrote it in such a manner that it wouldn't be perceived as just being for black
That's right.
people.
It ain't just about you as black people.
Right.
Nothing America has done has been about black.
Because they was afraid of the political consequences.
Name one thing that they've done that's been about black. One thing.
No, specifically for black people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. One thing.
The Amendment was not specifically written for black
people. Nothing at all. I want to read something to you here. Let's see. Go ahead, keep talking. I must have lost my page right quick.
Well, I mean, back to this. What is it about black people that where we can't demand 100% focus and attention?
It's about your position in the country and your relationship with your relationship to them. They have classified you in a relationship. Now, you have parents, you have children, you have dogs, you have cats, you have hamsters. Everything has a relationship to the people. And the people that you have a relationship to determines your position. In other words, if the dog shits on your carpet too many times, then you're going to kick the dog out the house. It's that simple. But you ain't gonna, if your child was like that, you ain't kicking them out the house. So it's about the relationship. Black people have never, ever acceded to a position where your relationship outshines theirs. Mm-hmm. No matter where you fit in, even the 14th Amendment was not about us. The Martin Luther King effort started a movement, but at the end of that movement, it had nothing to do with black people. So the United States got a significant way of dealing with things, and they're so many miles ahead of us when it comes to politics. We're not that attuned into politics, and because we're not attuned into politics is just like Vegas. Vegas runs a certain way, and when we go to Vegas, we don't know what that way is, but we go in there thinking we do, and they take us out every time. We walk away losers almost 99% of the time.
But it's kind of funny, right?
What?
As the Union was forming, right, and they brought in new states after slavery officially ended, and the slave state, then a state that they brought in had to be a free state, right? But yet one black person free in that free state would be enough to make that not like what was the case?
Dred Scott.
No, the Missouri, Dred Scott. That was one black person that went into a
slave state.
Was it a slave state or a free state?
He went into a slave state. He left a free state and went to a slave state.
And then he wanted to go back.
And no, he wanted to be free in the slave state. That's what he wanted.
Because he was free.
When in the other state, yeah.
So,
and the thing is, do you know what the final word of that was? That there was two things. One is that there's no law that the black person that's written for a black person that has to be respected by a white person. That was one. And the second part is that the United States Supreme Court said that no black person can ever, or no person of African descent can ever be considered a citizen of the United States. Now, that's the key. That's what they said. Let me just read this to you. Let's see. It says, it's the Compensation Emancipation Proclamation of December 1, 1862. Now, this is before January 1, 1863. Every state wherein slavery now exists, which shall abolish the same therein at any time or times before the first day of January, which would be the actual emancipation thing, in the year of our Lord 1900 shall receive compensation from the United States as to follow, to wit, that they will pay a compensation to any slave owner who liberated slaves. That's what they're saying right here in the Compensation Emancipation Proclamation. Now, there were 4 Emancipation Proclamations, and this one is dated December 1, 1862. Now, what that means is that we are going to pay you to free your slaves. And by you doing that, it's going to help us. And all this was done in the midst of the Civil War. But in the midst of the Civil War, slaves were running. They were leaving these plantations while this was being offered to the plantation owners. But the plantation owners were so determined not to allow them to go that they were sending out these fugitive slave hunters, these beginning police officers, to go to the north and bring their slaves back.
Right.
And they were going up there capturing. They didn't give a damn who they caught, as long as they brought some slaves back. Like you see 12 Years a Slave, that movie came out. That was the epitome of what that was about. This man was a free man. It didn't
matter whether it was John or James or Jim.
Didn't matter. They're going to take you back. And so the Fugitive Slave Act was endorsed by the federal government saying, yeah, we're going to support you if you, but at the same time, they're saying we're going to pay you if you liberate slaves.
But that was to hold the Union together, though, right?
Say that again?
Wasn't that part of the evolution of holding the Union together?
It was the law to make everybody peaceful, but nobody was peaceful. They were still fighting. So as fast as a slave would leave the South and go to the North, they could join the Union Army and then fight against the South. And that's what was happening. And the South saw this. See, the South refused to give blacks an opportunity to fight until they saw blacks fighting with the Union Army. And then they said, damn, let's do this. So now they're saying, let's liberate these slaves and put them in our Confederate Army. And then we still can get paid for them at the same time. They were double dipping. And the United States were supposed to pay them a certain amount based on this Compensation Emancipation Proclamation.
You point me to a movie that shows slaves in Confederate uniforms fighting for the Confederacy?
No, I can't. Not offhand, no. I can't do it. But it shows it's pictures out there. Huh?
Why do you think that's so?
I don't know. I'm sure there's something out there. I haven't given that a thought. I haven't given it a thought.
But if I ask you to point to movie, tell me about movies where Union soldiers fighting for the Union Army in uniform, you could point to movies and stuff like that.
Yeah, like that one with who is it? Morgan Freeman,
Denzel Washington. But you can't point to a movie that was produced
for the South. I don't know one for the South.
Blacks,
there might be one out there.
Showing blacks in Confederate uniforms fighting for the South. Or did they allow them to wear uniforms?
I don't know. I think they had to allow them to wear uniform, just like they did in the North. If you were fighting for the South, you had to wear a uniform. Now,
but what slave would do that?
There was a whole bunch of slaves. There are people right now, black people today, that still honor the rebel flag. That's just the way it is. Because we're out here trying to empower black people with knowledge, we're bringing up some things that are hurtful to our culture about the black people fighting for the South. There are many thousands of black men who fought for the South. Now, the Fugitive Slave Act was not only about recapturing slaves, it was about citizenship. So now we go from the Declaration of Independence to the Compensation Emancipation Proclamation, and then we get to the main part, which is the real Emancipation Proclamation, which said that we are free, and we're really not free. So now, if we get to the 14th Amendment, after the amendment is to the Constitution, the amendment basically says we're now citizens. 14th Amendment. But when you go back to the 5th Amendment, now that's what I want to do. I want to take us to the 5th Amendment, and then we're going to move all the way to the 18th. So on the 5th Amendment, it says the 5th Amendment of the United States Constitution protects citizens from self incrimination, double jeopardy, and the government's abuse of power. It also protects citizens from being deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process. So now keep in mind, I just talked to you. Wait a minute, let me finish this thought. I just told you how the federal government was planning on compensating the South for releasing the slaves. It was going to pay the slave owner for every slave that they liberated. That's what they said. Now we go to this amendment. The Fifth Amendment says that, yeah, we are going to pay you if we deprive you of your life, liberty, or property without due process. We're going to pay you for it. And now you go to the 14th Amendment. You go straight to the 14th Amendment, which says something different. The 14th Amendment says we ain't paying you a damn thing. I'm gonna go to it and just kind of talk about what it says, because the 14th Amendment really takes it home. The 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution grants citizenship. What does it say? Let's see. I want to get to the reading of it. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within the jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. Now, the 14th said that too, right? But if you go to Section 4 of the 14th Amendment, it says something else. It says, let's see. Here it is. Where does it start? Okay, but neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss of emancipation of any slave. But all such debts, obligation, and claims shall be held illegal, and void. So the United States now telling you in the 14th Amendment, which they shouldn't have put, to me, putting that there is in direct violation or opposition of the Fifth Amendment. So the Fifth Amendment says you're going to pay, no matter what, any person deprived, what did it say? You're going to pay any person deprived of life, liberty, or property. That's what it says in the Fifth Amendment. But then you go to the 14th Amendment. It says that they're not going to honor any debts, obligation, and claims against the USA. Any debt obligations.
Well, the 14th came after the 5th, though.
Huh?
The 14th was a later amendment.
Yeah, but it's in contradiction. So why would you contradict the Fifth Amendment in the 14th Amendment? You had no reason to put that there. Why did you put that there?
Why did they put it there?
To void the 14th Amendment. Because look at the rest of the amendments from 1 to 13.
Oh, so you think it was deliberate?
Yeah, it was deliberate. It's all about the strategy of politics. These people know what they were doing. So in other words, they're telling you one thing in Section 1, right, of the 14th Amendment. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States of the state wherein they reside. Now, look at what the definition of reside and resident, what that means. That means that you are temporarily living somewhere. That's what that means. That don't mean that that's your home. You're temporarily there. That's what reside means. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. It's saying that you don't deprive people up here in the first section of the 14th Amendment. But then in the last section, It's saying we're not going to pay you anything if we owe you some money. That's what it's saying. So it's a contradiction in itself over the Fifth Amendment, which
isn't the United States it's 50 independent states? Like if you come to the state, right? Like if you come to Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Texas say you got to have a state driver's license. If you from Saudi Arabia and you come to Texas, and Texas said, well, no, you can't drive with your passport and your Saudi Arabia driver's license. You got to get a Texas driver's license while you're here. Mm-hmm. But in California,
that's a great point.
But in California, you can drive with your.
I got the answer.
With your driver's license and your passport.
I got the answer.
Your country of origin driver's license and your passport.
Mm-hmm. The driver's license is a contract. A contract issued with the state you're so-called resident in. That contract stipulates how you operate in that state. The federal government in D.C., which is not a state, it's a democracy of Colombia, whatever you want to call it. It is part of a corporation. Every state is a doing business as part of the corporation of D.C. D.C. is part of the head corporation, which consists of the U.S., Britain, and France. Every one of these states are corporations or DBAs. Every state is a DBA. That's what if you frame it in that perspective, you can see what I'm saying.
But we got one. There's only one passport. Each state don't issue their own passport.
The federal government dictates certain things, and it outlines what it dictates to every state, and every state is dictated the same. It don't change when you change states. So they retain certain responsibilities at the federal level, and the states can't change it because they're DBA.
If you're living abroad, if you're from Spain, and you go to the embassy and you say, well, what do I need to drive in the United States with my vehicle? And they say, all you need is your passport and your Spain driver's license.
Mm-hmm. You don't even need your Spain driver's license, your passport.
No individual state should be able to counter that.
They can't. They don't counter it.
Every state don't have to agree to, but based on what I understand,
if you're from a foreign country, it depends on your nationality. If you're, for instance, you can be a nation within a nation. The Vatican is a nation within Italy. Right. Italy is a nation within itself. The United States has nations within nations, not states, nations. Now, if you belong,
So you're saying Texas is a nation?
No, it's a state. All states have their own rules, but those rules are subordinate to the federal rules.
Right, the federal.
But if you come from a foreign country, your foreign country requirements has to be in alignment with federal rules, not state rules, federal rules.
So can a Texas state trooper,
if he pull you over, if he don't know any better, he can do what he wants. He can write you a ticket. He can take you to jail. He can impound your car, but that doesn't make it right. Just like they do us, that don't make it right. They do these things because of their ignorance of the law and their determination not to be made to look stupid as they are. That's what it is. When you as a black person make a cop look stupid, you go into jail just because you made him look stupid. I called a cop a dick one time, and he put the cuffs on me just for calling him a dick.
What?
I did. He did. And his sergeant came and made him take the cuffs off of me. But I said, "Why are you being a dick? You don't have to do that." And he put the cuffs on me.
What?
Yeah. And so, but he was wrong for that. So my point is, you as a black person in America, you are subject to things. The Fugitive Slave Act, by the way, has never been overturned. And black people in this country have never been honestly made citizens. How come you have to be made a citizen when you were here before they got here? You're not native, you're indigenous. So it puts you in a position to own the land. So you got to become a citizen of the land that you own. This is the biggest secret kept in America today. We are not going to allow you to know that you are the people that were here 10,000 years before Columbus decided to see black people on the land. And they got you fooled by the movies that they produce, like Pocahontas. Pocahontas ain't damn no Indian colored person. She's a black girl. That's what she is. And we'll never admit it because we don't know no better, because we look at these damn movies like Tarzan, Bonanza, all like ain't nothing but white cowboys. I mean, what's that other one? The Lone Ranger, who's a black man. All this shit that they have pushed down our throats to convince us that we ain't shit and that it's all about them. And we start to believe that shit. How many times you got up on Saturday morning to watch Tarzan, and all you looking at is a white man controlling apes and monkeys and goats and all other shit that's in the jungle? I used to watch that shit religiously, but it's psychologically effing our head all up, man. And that's what has happened to our people. We believe this bullshit, and we allow ourselves to fall into the category of that subservient person and can never put ourselves on an equal or better level because we are mentally screwed. And if you don't unscrew your own brain, you're screwed. You're going to stay screwed till you die. You ain't going to never be equal to the white man until you unscrew your brain. That's the problem. And then the more you and I tell people about this stuff, the less we seem to get out of it, because people don't want to hear what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact of the matter is that we're the indigenous people of this country. The land is ours. And the more we know, the more they silence us.
Right.
The bigger black people get in America, the harder they try to take us down. I don't care how, I mean, you can't get so high and you're afraid to get even higher because you said, damn, I don't want to get that promotion because I know them, they'll be at my ass, then I end up getting fired.
Right.
You don't want to get up there because they're going to be after you. I made E6 in the Army, and by virtue of being E6, I'm in charge of white folks. This is in the 80s, 1979 and 80, and it was still a racist ass military then, which it is now too. But then the white boys that had to work for me, they brought down the command on me as the boss. So I told the boss, I said, you can do what you want with me because whatever you do to me, I'm doing to them. And they couldn't do nothing about it. So in order to fix it, they had to remove me. Mm-hmm. And so they eventually did with 5 Article 15. They removed me, but when I had them all set aside by Colonel J.T. Lawrence, who then made me the battalion maintenance sergeant, which put me over the companies that gave me all those Article 15s, which...
You got fired? Somebody tried to hang that on you?
Yeah. Then I got them back, though, because after I left that unit, they put me in charge of them, all the vehicles that they own, and they couldn't move an inch without talking to me first as a battalion motor sergeant. So I was able to get them back from little as something as simple as a loose lug nut on a military vehicle on a public road. That's a letter of reprimand for the command. So I had fun working over there. Even way I had to struggle, though, by being black and being powerful as I felt I was, it made it difficult for them to accept me giving them the orders that I gave. But I did it, and I never gave up on it because of that. But the Fugitive Slave Act people, the beginning of the police department, would go into northern countries or northern states, and they would hunt. That's what they really did. They hunted black people, whether they were slaves or not, or whether they were runaway slaves or not. And they would capture those people or kidnap those people and take them back down south. And when they took them back down south, they were enslaved and they were beat for being assumed as a runaway. And wasn't nobody in between the southern government and the northern governments to fix it. There was nobody to say, "Oh, let that person go." But there were some white folks that were out there helping the runaway slaves, the so-called runaway slaves, and there were some people out there trying to rescue the people that were caught by the. I got you, Claw. Hold on. There were some people out there trying to capture the. There were some people out there trying to capture. I'm sorry about that. Slow down. I had to go back so I can bring in my pun. There were some people out there trying to capture or stop the migration of those slaves back to slavery, but it never hardly ever worked. Most of the time, it ended up everybody did, but some people got away after they were captured. It was the Fugitive Slave Act was so bad. I mean, if you look at what the police do now to black people, you're looking exactly at the Fugitive Slave Act.
But wasn't the Fugitive Slave Act, wasn't the purpose of that to try to hold a union together?
How was that?
Well, I mean, wasn't it a political? And I don't want to be insensitive, but wasn't it more about the politics?
Too many slaves running away, so the Congress had to do something real quick.
Well, they wasn't running away; they was going from one state to another.
No, they were running from slaves. They were running from the plantations.
Right, but they weren't leaving the country.
Slavery, huh?
They may have been trying to make it into Canada or someplace, but
not only going north, they went south too.
But wasn't they leaving slave states for free states? Is what I'm saying. They wasn't running away from America. They was getting away from slave states.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, right. They were getting away from slave states, but the federal government gave them power to go back and get them from the runaway states, from the states that accepted them.
But wasn't that politics, though? Wasn't that about politics?
Absolutely. Everything had to be governmental legislated. The Fugitive Slave Act came from Congress,
right?
Federally endorsed.
So why did they enact that act? If slavery was,
because you had more people. The only person really wanted to use slavery as a tool was President Lincoln. Not even his vice president was on board with him. He wanted to help the purpose of them uniting as one country, and the southern states, the 13 southern states, wanted to be their own country because they wanted to continue with slavery, and the northern people had too many black free people in order to continue with slavery. So it was the only place you had all these black people in power were up north. You had so many people up north in political positions, and they used those legislations to change the way they govern. But the southern states are the ones who ran the federal government per se. Everybody sided with them to get what they wanted against Lincoln. And that's why Lincoln was up there.
Well, people try to say that the Civil War wasn't about slavery. It was about this country, about the development of this country politically. Mm-hmm. And I think a little bit of both is true. I think it was about slavery, but I think it was also about the Union. Do you agree?
Of course it was about the Union. First, I just want to read something to you. The Fugitive Slave Act was a law passed by the 31st United States Congress on September 18, 1850, as part of the compromise. It was a compromise of the 1850 between Southern interest in slavery and Northern free slavery. Northern free people, not slavery. But that was the issue right there between the two. They wanted the South wanted slavery, and the North did not. So the Fugitive Slave Act was the compromise. In other words, saying, well, if your slaves ran to the North, then you have the right to come and get them and bring them back. So the South created the police force, the people that operated as the slave catchers, the
Right.
slave catchers. The South did that. The North didn't have slave catchers, but there were in the North they called the people indentured servants. In the South, they made people slaves. Now, what did the emancipation do when it was implemented? I can almost tell you in a nutshell.
Now, and indentured servants was a different class. That wasn't slaves.
That's just tomato, because they were the same as slaves in the North, but they were called different things. It's the same thing.
But what I'm saying, a slave in the North wasn't an indentured service because they wasn't enslaved for a specific period of time. That's what an indentured servant.
But that's what that was. See, it's all cover up. It's all about semantics. It's all about using words that don't make you sound so cruel in the North, but you're just as cruel as the slave owners in the South, but you're acting more sophisticated.
So a slave in a northern state that was free was really not free.
It was really not free. You still could not leave your job without due cause. You had to be released from your job. You couldn't just quit. You had to be released. If you worked in a white people's home, they could still beat you legally according to the federal government, but they couldn't use certain things like barbed wire or whatever. They even specified some of those things that you can't use to discipline your slave. Now, you can also, the law stated that you could beat your slave to death as long as you were training your slave or your indentured servant. Ain't that some shit? And they were not only black. They were not only black up north. They had Mexican. They had white. They had people from Scotland and other countries that didn't speak English from the motherland. They were considered indentured servants too, but they were the only ones who were honored the indentured servitude policy. Blacks were considered indentured servants, but there was no time limit on black people being indentured servants. Black people would work for the white folks their entire lives as indentured servants, but they were technically slaves. They had no clue, just like the people down in Galveston. They had no clue that they were free.
So in the 60s in the South, when black women worked as maids and whatever in white homes, were they indentured servants?
Yeah, technically, I would say yes, because if you worked in a white person's home, the white man was still knocking boots. If he wanted to screw somebody that was working in his house, he would, and ain't nothing you could do about it. If you drove tractor worked on a plantation as a free person in the late 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, you'd be out there on the tractor in the field, 8-10 hours a day, sun from can't see in the morning to can't see at night. And all that time you out there, that white man making rounds to your homes, going to your house, messing with your family, seeing what your wife may be cooking, screwing the women in the house, doing what he want to do, taking who he want on a ride back in the woods. He could do what he wanted to do, and nobody complained, because the black woman knew if she had complained when her husband got home that evening, her husband would have been dead the next day. They knew this. So black women, they didn't empower the white man. They protected the black man, because if they had did what they would normally do, they would be dead. Even if if it was a black woman who was taken to be a servant in this white man's house, and she was assigned to nurse for him because he had a broke leg. So when they sent her to the house, he captured her for the next 2 or 3 months. He wouldn't let her go nowhere. He was just screwing her and making her take care of him. So the son of that man with the broke leg beat the black woman up because he said the black woman was messing with his daddy. Leave my daddy alone. So he beat up the black woman. They couldn't do nothing about it. When she got out of the hospital, they made her come right back to that man's house to be his concubine or servant or whatever they called them. This time, he was trying to rape her, and he had a gun on his waist. She took the gun, and they wrestled over the gun, and he ended up getting shot in the head. Now, here it is. This woman is defending herself from being raped by this man and family who had been abusing her for years. And she went to court over this, and she went to the death penalty. She got the death penalty behind it. So they killed her because she tried to defend herself from a white man raping her. What kind of shit is that? That was in the 40s, I believe. I'm not exactly sure, but it was in the 19th century. It was late, the 20th century. So just back to the Fugitive Slave Act, it never changed. This law is still on the books. It's still on the books. And then you want to get to Dred Scott, right? Which you mentioned a few minutes ago.
I thought laws like that were superseded.
How you gonna supersede the law? How you gonna do that?
The Constitution, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments.
It don't abolish laws.
All those laws.
It don't abolish laws on the books. It doesn't. You have to take in each individual law.
Laws are not enforceable.
It may not be enforceable, but you think killing 175 black men since 2014 is enforceable? You probably got one or two enforced prosecutions over black men being killed since 2014. There's too many people, too many black men killed by police officers, the fugitive slave people, for it to be enforced. I mean, there's no way that they can kill that many black men and nobody get prosecuted. You know, what's the percentage?
Because they got laws that pretty much exempt police officers.
And it's going to be worse now. So the police officer can go in and open fire and kill everybody in the house and go back to work the next day with no problems. That's how it's going to be now with Donald Trump in office. But there's no way to change it unless, how do we change? Black people ain't no way we're going to do anything with the government. Even being a politician ain't going to change it. Like you always say, you got all these black politicians, but it's still the same. That's not the answer. The only answer we have for us is unification. And I'm appalled because we got the unification. We just don't have the cooperation. Because if you look at the amount of people going to black churches on Sunday, millions of people. Why aren't those millions of people doing anything together?
Now, have the community in San Antonio called for a boycott of Target?
No.
The black
the community has to be a community. Where is the community in San Antonio?
Well, like the NAACP or the civic organizations. I mean, you got different civil rights groups there.
It's almost like we're non-existent. There's no black culture. There's no black culture outside of the NAACP Jubilee dinner. That's it.
I think New Birth, what's the pastor at New Birth used to be over the NAACP branch of the department. They call him for a boycott of Target. You
seen that?
Yes, it's on the. It was on. I'm just gonna pull it up. Maybe we can play it for the listeners.
It's on the internet.
Let me see, can I find it? Keep talking.
Okay, but I don't see if he's a one-man pastor when you got 1,000 pastors in San Antonio. Why is just one pastor doing it? Why haven't they unified and did a unified front? One person. That's how they keep us screwed all the time. One person cannot make a change in any city. It takes a group of people, a group of black people. One person didn't solidify the march on Washington. One person didn't make the boycott of the buses in Birmingham work.
Okay.
I mean,
can you listen to it? Yeah.
Go ahead. We're waiting to hear one of the pastors out of San Antonio talk about Target and how we should boycott. If you don't know, Target has removed the 31 black vendors from their inventory list. They're no longer buying anything from the black vendors, basically. Right. And they're selling out. Everything's in Target that's black owned is being marked down, and now they're removing it from the store. So black people should not be shopping at Target.
At Target.
Matter of fact, I've said it for the last 3 years that on June 19th, 2025, we need to do it again. We need to boycott that day and not spend a dime in Walmart, Target, and any of the restaurants. Everything should be self-sustained. If it ain't a black business, we don't spend our dollars. That's where we should be. You got to start somewhere, and we got to unify somewhere. So unifying our dollars is the only thing that these people understand is when they can't get no money from us, because our money is what keeps us. Our money is what keeps this culture thriving.
Yeah.
It's not in our pockets. It's going in theirs. And that's their objective, to keep our money flowing in their direction. Stop spending your money with these people. You want to have an impact on America? Keep your money in your pocket. I mean, we're making them.
As a church, you may be seated. That in the season of Lent, which is the 40 days leading up to Easter, our church is going to be in a fast of 40 days of consistent prayer. Come on, I can't hear nobody. I said 40 days. Consistent prayer. Lent starts on Wednesday, March the 5th. And for 40 consecutive days, our church will be in prayer. Some of those days will be here in person, other days will be virtually, other days will be on the phone, but 40 consistent days of prayer. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, I am calling us, listen to me, because we have to operate in the spiritual. I am calling the conscientious Christian community all over this country, the conscientious Christian community all over this country. I am calling for a 40-day fast from Target. Beginning on March the 5th. 100,000 conscientious Christians. You don't have to be black, Latino, Asian, white, 100,000. You're going to sign this commitment to be a part of this 40-day fast. 100,000 of you, bare minimal. I'm asking you that after service, you'll go to targetfast.org. targetfast.org. I want you to share with everybody on your job, every person in your home, every person in your sphere of influence, every person who follows you on social media. I am believing for 100,000 people are going to sign this covenant commitment of not just prayer, but fasting from Target. Here's what is amazing. Listen to me, because what we learned from the Montgomery bus boycott is that racist America doesn't respond to speeches. They respond to dollars. Come on, and if they start losing $29 million a day for 40 days, we will break the back of the system. I want to go on record that not only am I asking you to fast for 40 days from Target, I am telling you to sell all of your Target stock. I want the stock to go down because we are standing in righteous indignation against racism and sexism in this nation. I hear the naysayers, I hear the pundits, I hear those who are detractors saying, how will this impact our black businesses? I'm glad you asked. You at New Birth, you're not at that church. So as a consequence, when it is that you register to be a part of this 40-day fast, we have come into partnership with the National Black Chamber of Commerce. National Black Chamber of Commerce CEO, is here with us on the day. Brother Busby, would you please stand? Thank you so very much for being with us from Washington, D.C. Listen to me very carefully.
All right.
When you
Now, that's what one pastor is doing at New Birth. Now, you know he used to be with the NAACP, so he's not just your ordinary pastor. He's an activist. He knows how to organize, call people to action.
Right.
And don't we need that in every community?
Yes, not only in every community, but in every church. I can only say that 1 out of 1,000 churches in a city is unacceptable to me. I commend what this pastor has said and done for boycotting Target, but I have a problem that he's standing alone, with his own congregation when there's 40 other pastors sitting back doing this with the same capacity.
There's that unity thing. I mean, how can we ever?
We can't get two churches to work together here. That's my biggest issue with Black America. We got all these damn churches. We got all these fraternity organizations. We got all these motorcycle clubs. We got all these Masons. We got all these different organizations, and everybody want to go on their own solo trip. Everybody. They're so afraid to do this.
Well, sometimes you lead by example. So maybe his example will lead other pastors in other communities.
It's to me, I ain't no damn more room for us assuming that leading by example gonna get anything done. If people don't get out of their own damn way and start believing in somebody to lead them, then they gonna always be dumbass people. And where we are in most cases, like it's unacceptable to me that we have all these big ass churches, all these powerful leaders in the fraternities, for us to still be trying to figure out how we gonna do something against white folks. And I'm just being straight up, against white government. I'll put it like that. Against white government, not white folks, because we do have some very nice white folks out there. I don't want that to be misconstrued. I want us to understand that we as Black people, if we don't ever start unifying and collaborating and having more than one mofo standing up talking shit all damn day, then we got a problem. We can't get two groups to come together half the damn time unless it's a party.
But do you think you can keep the middle class out of Target?
No. I remember a boycott when I was a child. I remember a boycott. We were boycotting this white liquor store for some reason. I was a kid. I don't even know why. But Black people still insisted on going into that store, and they were getting their ass beat after they came out. People, I mean, the people that were boycotting it would take the liquor and break it and do everything they could to stop Black folks from going in there. But Black people, I ain't playing that shit, drunk as hell. I'm going to get me some liquor. You can't. It seems like shit don't even work. No matter what we do, we got people that's going to tell it on us. More slaves got caught because Black people told it on them than white people catching them. The only way that the Black people got caught was because Black people helped the white people catch them.
Now, how long did the fugitive slave law stay in force?
It's still
until the Civil War.
It's still it just faded away. It ain't never been rescinded. That's what I was saying earlier in the show, that this thing has never been rescinded in America. It's so many laws still on the books that are still relevant.
Civil War. That was so you're saying it's never been revoked,
right? This here Fugitive Slave Act 1850 is still on the books. You can go back now and call the laws of any state or any county or any city, and you will find laws against Black people still on the books.
Of course, yeah.
Still on the books, especially where you grew up, because y'all had it bad down there with white people not accepting Black people with money. I mean, there's one story I was reading about in the 1619 Project. It talked about a man who was so smart. He had a farm and he leased his land to the white man that lived next door, and the white man moved his property line 25 acres or 25 yards across his property line onto the black man's land. And then he went downtown and told the police that the black man was crossing his line onto his land. And then he would stand there and dare the black man to come on his own 25 feet of land or he'd kill him. And the police came to the black man's house the next day and arrested him for trespassing.
But you know, it's funny. You're right, because the Supreme Court just ruled that Mississippi's disenfranchisement laws were valid, could stay on the books. I mean, felony franchise. Yeah.
It don't change.
They refused to hear the case.
Then this man, he was this black man, so he said, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to lease to white folks anymore. I'm just going to sell my land, and I'm going to lease if I want to do farming. So he started a trucking company, and he in Alabama or Georgia, one of them states.
Could have been my grandmother. She had a trucking company.
And they killed him, though. They killed him in front of his own kids. They shot it. They shot him 5 times with a revolver. And then one white man shot him in the back with a shotgun as he lay dead already, dying. He shot him and he killed him, because the only reason they killed him is because of his success. So you have to be careful how successful you want to get, because they cannot handle the success of a black man. What if you had the biggest, the nicest house in rural whatever city, Georgia, you may have grew up in? You had a house bigger than any white folks' house. Anybody in that whole city, your house was the biggest. You drove the nicest cars, and you wasn't afraid to flaunt it. You did what you do. You don't think that they would target you? The police would target you. The citizens, the white citizens would target you, and they would get citizens from other cities to help target you, so they can get rid of you, because you're trying to show black people that you can be rich too. They don't want you showing black people that. Think about it. They look how many black folks done got killed because of their success.
But the fugitive slave law would have ended when slavery ended.
No, they just transformed the same people that were bringing those slaves back into law enforcement.
Oh, okay, I thought it was the same.
They became part of the black code. Now they're law enforcement officers responsible for the black codes, which was the same as capturing slaves and putting them back in slavery. So in order to put a slave back in slavery after slavery ended, you had to take him through the legal system that was sanctioned by the federal government.
Exactly.
So you put him in jail, and then you released him back to the plantation, which was worse than slavery, because now the slave owner had no legal reason to care for you. He only needed to work the shit out of you. And when you died, he go back to the prison and say, hey, your slave just died. Give me another one. And the prison system had to give him another one. That's how it worked. The prison system today is nothing but a milling farm for slaves. Well, these guys go into prison and they have to work for pennies. They have to do the slave labor still.
Look where most prisons in the South, especially Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, most of the prisons are on plantations, on formal plantations.
Yep. And right now, think about what the prisoners do. They go to work every day. Now I can see working in the cafeteria, feeding your fellow prisoners, doing the laundry room.
That's not the majority of them.
But then you go make furniture for schools. You go
make furniture for state governments.
Every state can contract with the prison to get all this stuff done, and you're paying pennies on a dollar to the individual doing the work. But the contractor who contracted with the state are becoming millionaires, if not already, on the revenue that they're getting from the state. But when the contractor only has to pay the prisoner pennies on a dollar, but pay the prison itself, dollars on a dollar, the prison's making more money than the person doing the work, basically. So the prison is now the landlord or the slave.
Making pennies a day, yeah.
Yeah, well, and who makes a person work for 20 cents on a dollar, 20 cents an hour? Why would you work for 20 cents an hour? You in prison, you got to work for 20 cents an hour. You don't want to work. But if you don't want to work, they don't want to feed you. Or they don't want to allow you to use the laundry. You got to do something. If you ain't working, they don't want you to do a lot of the things that you're authorized to do. You should be authorized to do. So you run into situations. Every step of the way, this race right here, y'all color people, y'all getting screwed in America. So everything need to be scrutinized. And unity is the only way we're going to stop it. If we don't unify, we're not going to stop it. And I don't understand why we find it so difficult to put our heads together and start changing things. And until we do, as long as they keep us separate, they got it made. Right now, they got it made. We got this bullshit organization called the NAACP. We got all these bullshit organizations that are not making a damn difference. If we're the same as we were 25 years ago, what's the difference? What's the purpose? Who makes the difference for us? No damn body. We ain't got nobody out here. Not a single group, not a single entity striving and driving for us. Look at the damn Holocaust. They had that shit all over TV all last week. Yeah, and we got this is why did the Holocaust come up during Martin Luther King or doing our shit? They took the whole damn week and reported on that, but what about our shit? What other thing do they want to report here in San Antonio other than the damn wreath laying ceremony, which is a waste? You got this little midget ass statue down here. Boy, I can get on my soapbox down here in San Antonio that we go pay homage to every damn year, and it don't mean shit. The statue is disrespectful to me because it's not it's not representative of what Martin Luther King, even though I'm pissed off at him too, represents. He led us down this turn the other cheek route, which screwed us to this day. He led us down this integration of school, which screwed us to this day. We're dumber now than we were back in the 50s. We're way dumber. I mean, some of us have become millionaires and rich and successful nowadays, but still, the majority of our people are worse off now than they were back then.
And it's about to get worse with Trump's tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Most of our shit come from Canada and Mexico, and
we just keep going through the motions. Every day we get up in the morning, we get dressed, we go to work. We earn our money, we go to lunch. We finish lunch, we go back to work. We earn our money,
we go to Target.
We go off work, we go to Target. We come out of Target, we go to Walmart, or we go to some other restaurant, Cracker Barrel, that don't want to see us up in there.
Yeah,
then we go home and we cook our kids a meal, and sometimes we so damn poor because we're trying to live on a certain level. We feed our kids ramen noodles for dinner because we can't afford a decent meal, and we're eating pork that's HMO modified, chicken that's HMO, what they call GMO modified. All these things that are killing us. Everything we consume is basically killing us or sending us to the grave. So you better be careful about what you eat nowadays. And everything you eat out, you're eating on these dirty ass utensils. I mean, they give you some forks and knives and spoons that somebody else just had that could have had AIDS or herpes or whatever else, and you putting that same shit in your mouth. You better ask for plasticware on every restaurant and a to-go cup on every drink you get. And don't buy no more of that damn sweet tea because they're pouring 5 gallons of sugar in that damn sweet tea, or 5 pounds of sugar in the sweet tea. And you got to quit, brothers and sisters. You got to quit sooner or later of falling into this bullshit persona of success. You know, everybody here in San Antonio think going to Papados is successful. Just because you can eat in there, you successful now. It's bullshit. Fuck Papados. I don't mean to go there, but forget about Papados. You know, that ain't no, I mean, you can do the same thing in your kitchen.
Well, let me ask you got the, is there a black Papados type where black people, middle class black people will go to and say, like going to Papados? I hate to make the comparison to something.
Yeah, it's good though. Why would I invite you to Papados when I can invite you to my house and make you the blackened catfish and rice, Cajun rice, right on my stove?
But what's the missing ingredient versus going to your house versus going to Papados?
There is no missing ingredient. The missing ingredient is you want to go spend money at Papados. You want to be seen. That's what the missing ingredient is. If you come to my house, can't nobody see you there eating this big expensive meal. That's the only missing ingredient. We want to be accessible to the same thing they are accessible to, and we want them to know that we can do the same thing they can do, which is detrimental to us. We're trying to show them something that's screwing us, and that's what they want us to do. Keep showing me, brother. Show me that you can eat in these restaurants. Then I may have respect for you. Show me that you can drive a big fancy car. Then I might have respect for you. But the moment you park that car in the wrong place, I'm going to tow your ass and you're going to end up in jail because of it, or end up with a fine. I'm going to charge you. Show me that you can pay the fine that I'm finna levy on your ass. But you're going to get the fine. So it's a persona. It's what you want other people to perceive. I want people to receive that I don't give a F about them. I care about me and mine. And I'm black, and I'm what they say, they unapologetically black. But I don't care what they think. And that's what our problem is. We care too much about what somebody else think about where we are and what we say. And I don't give a flying F about it. They can think what they want about me. I drive a damn 2009 Kia Spectra with a stick in the floor. And I don't care. They can think what they want to think. But that's what I like to drive.
Well,
you know, that's determine my wealth.
Do we hold all these truths that all men are created equal? Do we hold those truths as black people?
We do. We hold it. We know ain't nobody better than us. We know that we are the original people.
Why don't we act like it? Why don't we carry out?
Because we've been beat down into such a submission that we can't get out of our own damn way of being less than. We are our own. We have to prove something. We don't have to prove shit. Quit trying to prove who the hell you are. You're already there. And the moment you go in front of them, you want to change the way you talk. You want to change the way you dress, change the way you walk, and laugh the way they laugh. That's the problem. We cannot make ourselves better trying to make them think we want them to accept us. I don't give a shit if they accept me or not. And I mean, if you're on a job, if you ain't doing some of these things, you're going to get fired. You're the last to get hired and the first to get fired because of that. So keep in mind that you should have at least 3 streams of income, because when you went there, you were looking for a job. And when you leave there, you might be looking for another one. So don't ever get past that. I'm always going to be looking. Never get complacent with these people, because the moment you get complacent is the moment they're going to let your ass go. That's what's happening here. And so many of us have walked the stratification level up the job, from the damn warehouse worker to the damn garbage taker, from the janitor all the way to the superintendent. And the moment you hit the superintendent level, or the potential to be the superintendent, they let your ass go. You can retire in 20 years, but the moment you get 19 and a half years, they fire you. Because they don't want to take care of your ass after you retire. But let a white person do the same. A white person can come into a job with no damn education. You got a damn master's degree, but they pay them more because they're white. But you don't seem to mind. That'll make my damn hair stand up on the back of my neck and me want to hurt somebody because it's wrong. And as we accept that, then it's not their fault, it's ours. So I don't blame the white man for the condition of the black man today. I blame the black man, the black woman, for the position of our culture today, because we are not the one representing ourselves.
And you have not. It took a pastor who's at a nonprofit church, 501c3 or 501c4 church,
with 3,000 members.
But you haven't heard the voice nationally of any political leader.
Not a single one. Not one. And not one person in a governmental office. Not one. Why? You say why, I say why. Because we are too afraid of what they think. That's our problem. We want to make sure we're in compliance with them.
Now, you got to give Warnock some credit now. He went against this $1 million donor that gave him money for his Warnock. And Warnock said that he can't be bought. You know, he questioned Trump's nominee for secretary for the Health and Human Services. And he really got into him. This donor who gave millions of dollars to his campaign said that she regretted it and she wasn't going to support him anymore. And he basically said he couldn't be bought.
Well, yeah, because he done already got the money.
Right.
Why would that? Hey, I don't need no more of your shit. I'm where I need to be. Keep your damn money now. That's what it boils down to. It. Look at everyone that he's nominated so far got the worst records ever. You know, you never seen people with such low morals and standards being put in most high places.
Especially this guy that's going to be over management and budget or whatever that office is.
And look at the Department of Defense. That doesn't make sense. But that's who's in charge. And they're in charge of the entire military, not just the damn one branch. Everybody, every nuclear weapon we might have.
Trump been in office. He's been messing with minorities, been messing with black folks, been messing with women, been messing with the LGBTQ community. You ain't heard shit about Russia. He said he was going to end the war in Ukraine.
And it's still going. Because he talked shit to get into office. And
them Ukrainians are everywhere. I was that plane that crashed in Philadelphia. They interviewed a person on the street. It was a Ukrainian. He thought it was a bomb. All
right, we've been on a minute, almost an hour and a half.
But I mean, you see how America can absorb, how our communities can absorb so many people.
Yeah, it's easy for them,
and they get benefits.
America, and they get benefits.
How's he living?
So why not export them? Are they citizens? The Ukrainians, the 200,000 that they brought here, are they citizens now?
No, but they white.
But why ain't they being put on a plane, sent back to Ukraine? No, they're not. Yeah, those 200,000 every year. This is what's happening. See, some people don't know.
So you saying that they're replacing
the United States?
You saying that they need to make room for
for white people?
That's
what he's saying. You know, every year the Department of Immigrations go down the list and they say, all right, we got room for 1,000 Italians, 5,000 Scottish, 25,000 Germans, 4,000 or 5,000 Ukrainians. You know, they go down the list and they say, these are the visas we issuing this year. And everybody gets visas, but then they got room for 300 Africans. You know what I'm saying? That's how they do it.
So you think this immigration thing is to help facilitate that? I mean, it's only so much to go around.
Make room. I think it's to move people out and to make people not want to be a part of this country other than white folks. It's all about being white. If you're white, come to America. If you're non-white, don't come here. That's what it's about. And it's short of saying that to everybody on the planet. if you're not white, don't come to America. We only want white people here. They want us to be gone so bad, but they can't get rid of us. We're like I said, we're like roaches.
Well, I just think I just think in some ways you can't convince me that since the first census of Black folks to now, to the latest census, our percentage of the population hadn't changed.
That's by design, right?
That's control. You have to control that.
We know that they're controlling it, but all these things are coming to light now that we're not paying attention to in America. And by us paying attention now, we're becoming too smart to be in America. That's why they're saying Black folks need to leave too, and we're subject to deportation as well, because we are becoming too smart on their tactics, on how they keep us controlled, how they keep the percentage of Black people in America the same for year after year. So the Fugitive Slave Act assisted in returning Black people back to slavery in the South. Now, the president, the Department of Justice, our federal government all aided in this endeavor. So now it is time for us to change the way America is seeing Black people. And the only way we're going to do that is unify. But with that, Brother Claude, give me your closing thoughts on the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. And after that, I'm going to go ahead and take you out and thank you for being here. And then I'm going to close out the Black News Network. But go ahead.
Well, another week where we've had an interesting subject, and a subject that you just don't get in academia, at least on a regular basis.
Right.
We live in a country that says all men are created equal, but we know that that's just not true. And whether we're looking at the Fugitive Slave Law or any of its predecessors, we're still not there yet. And I just think it's important that our listeners understand that there's a lot out there that they need to know. And we try to bring it to them on this show. I bet you could go down the line and ask 10 people to tell you what they know about the Fugitive Slave Law, and 9 probably never even heard of it. And so I think we have to put this stuff out there, and hopefully people will go and do some further research and try to understand how we got to where we are now. So I look forward to continuing discussions about this and other important topics that I think will help to empower our people and move us to that next level of being an American citizens, where we all are endowed with certain inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we're just not there yet, brother.
I want to say thank you to our fine brother, Claude Foster from Houston. And I really appreciate you being on the show, my brother. I'll see you next Sunday at 3:30. We may keep this going, or we may come up with a new topic close to it, okay?
All right, brother.
All right, take care. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard the closing remarks from my co-host, Mr. Claude Foster, and we're moving on to close. If we don't face reality about what's happening here in America, we're going to really find ourselves doing the same thing 25 years from now that we're doing today. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 put the fear of God in our people who had escaped slavery and migrated north. There were not many people up there to defend a Black person after they had been captured by these so-called law enforcement agencies. These people would beat people, kill people, maim people, and return them to the South for a profit. They were getting paid to bring a slave back to the plantation, even after they had been there for a while. You could have been gone for years from slavery. And if they saw you and thought you were a potential target, they could take you back to the South and put you back in slavery. And there was not very much you could do about it. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 is still valid. And it's only evolved to a point where they are now deporting people back to other countries. It's almost the exact same replica. And the federal government has empowered agencies, complete agencies that what do they call them? ICE, which I am, what is that? Somebody may be able to tell me later. But the ICE walks around, and if you don't have papers, the correct paper, what's different than Nazi Germany? When you don't have the right papers showing that you're not a Jew, that you're going to be taken out back and shot, or here in America, where if you don't have the correct documentation, that you're going to be placed on a C-130 or a C-17 and sent back to your mother country as an immigrant. What's the difference? It's almost the same principle. So these people in power, they do the same thing whenever the time is right. So right now, with Donald Trump in office, the time is right to remove people from other countries that are non-white. There were 200,000 Ukrainians brought to the United States when the Ukrainian war started 2 years ago. So what you're telling me is those 200,000 people are now citizens of the United States, but why are there not an aircraft full of them being sent back to Ukraine? Because they want more white people in this country and less people that are non-white in this country. So you start with the Mexicans. And then what bothers me the most is you have Mexicans condoning what's happening here in Washington with their fellow Hispanic people. You got to be stupid to be doing that. That's like the same black people that sold out all of the people who were caught by the fugitive slave police, which are the same thing as ICE. This is the Black News Network, the real voice of Black USA. I am Brother Smith-Bey, and this is from the desk of the Emissary, the War Report. We report every single Sunday at 3:30 p.m., and we talk about controversial subjects that have not been brought back to our attention over the past several years. So look at what we're talking about, think about what we're talking about, and react to or even respond to what we're talking about. We do not own the rights to the music, but we do own the rights to what we say. Again, every Sunday, like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on, what's the other one? YouTube. We will look forward to hearing from you next Sunday at 3:30 p.m. And we thank you for being a part of the Black News Network. We provide you with Black information from a Black perspective. Have a nice day.